Powerful communication isn't about talking more, it's about speaking with presence, purpose, and power. Welcome to How to Talk Like a Leader. Learn to Speak Like a Leader. Full audiobook by Jessica. Brought to you by Premium Audiobooks. In this transformative journey, you'll discover 10 life-changing chapters designed to help you command respect, inspire action, and lead with unshakable confidence. From mastering presence to turning communication into influence, every word will move you closer to leadership mastery. Subscribe to Premium Audiobooks for more empowering, high-value content that helps you grow your mind, elevate your voice, and lead your life with purpose. Number 1. Master presence. Command respect through speech. Presence is the language before words. It speaks in silence, in the way you walk into a room, in the calmness of your eyes, and in the steadiness of your voice. Long before a leader opens their mouth, their presence has already spoken. It tells others whether to listen or to turn away, whether to trust or to doubt. Mastering presence is not about theatrics or performance. It is about alignment between your inner world and your outer expression. True presence is the reflection of self-mastery. It is the quiet power that draws attention without demanding it, that commands respect without forcing it. The first key to mastering presence is awareness. Awareness of your body, your tone, your energy, and the space you occupy. People often underestimate how deeply others read their nonverbal signals. The slight tension in your shoulders, the restlessness of your hands, the pace of your breathing, these reveal what words hide. A leader who lacks self-awareness communicates confusion even when their message is clear. To cultivate presence, you must learn to anchor yourself in stillness before you speak. Take a breath not just to inhale air but to collect yourself. The pause between thought and speech is where leadership begins. When you speak, your energy should convey calm authority, not aggression, not superiority, but certainty. Certainty comes from knowing your values, from being rooted in something deeper than approval or fear. Many people speak to impress. Leaders speak to express what is essential. Their words carry weight because they are anchored in conviction, not ego. Respect grows naturally from this balance. When your tone carries steadiness and your words carry truth, people lean in. They sense that your presence does not seek control. It offers clarity. Commanding respect through speech requires understanding the relationship between voice and emotion. Every tone you use either calms or agitates those who hear you. A raised pitch can signal anxiety or defensiveness. A steady tone builds trust and safety. When your voice matches your intention, your message feels authentic. The human mind is wired to detect emotional coherence. If your words say one thing but your tone says another, people believe the tone. Therefore, to speak like a leader, your emotional state must support your message. Confidence cannot be faked. It must be cultivated from discipline, preparation, and self-trust. Presence also lives in posture. A strong posture is not rigid. It is relaxed and open. Keep your spine tall, shoulders back, chin neutral. This physical stance tells your nervous system and everyone watching that you are grounded. People instinctively mirror the energy they receive. When you appear calm, others calm down. When you appear centered, others find stability in your presence. A leader's composure becomes the anchor in chaos. This is why presence is so powerful. It regulates the emotions of an entire environment. In any conversation, your eyes communicate more than your mouth. Eye contact is not about staring. It is about seeing. When you genuinely look at someone, you affirm their existence. You signal respect without a word. But when your gaze drifts, when you look through people instead of at them, connection dissolves. Leaders understand that attention is the rarest form of respect. To master presence, you must learn to give attention as much as you seek it. Every great communicator listens with their whole body, head slightly forward, body still, face open. This listening posture speaks volumes about confidence and care. Respect does not come from volume, it comes from value. When you speak, ask yourself whether your words add clarity or just noise. Leaders edit their thoughts before expressing them. They replace long explanations with simple truths. They remove filler words that weaken conviction. Each sentence should have a purpose. each word a direction. The fewer words you use to convey something meaningful, the more power those words carry. Presence thrives in simplicity. People respect those who make complex ideas sound clear, who turn confusion into understanding without arrogance. To command respect, you must also respect yourself. You cannot project what you do not believe. Self-respect is built from habits: how you treat your time, how you prepare, how you recover from mistakes. When you show discipline in private, it becomes confidence in public. Others can sense integrity. It's felt in how you handle pressure, how you respond when challenged. A leader's presence is tested most in adversity. In those moments, calmness becomes a sign of strength. The world listens more closely to the person who does not panic. There is a quiet kind of power in restraint. Presence is not about dominating a room. It's about owning your silence as much as your speech. Great leaders know when to pause, when to hold space before replying. That moment of stillness commands more respect than hurried words ever could. It shows control. It shows thoughtfulness. It shows that your response is deliberate, not reactive. People trust those who think before they speak, because it signals maturity. Presence is not speed. It is timing. Knowing when to speak and when not to is one of the purest forms of communication mastery. To develop this level of presence, practice mindfulness in daily interactions. Notice how you enter conversations. Do you rush, interrupt, or drift? Or do you breathe, listen, and align your attention fully? Presence begins with small choices. Every handshake, every greeting, every pause is a chance to strengthen it. When you walk into a meeting, feel the ground beneath your feet. When you start speaking, notice the rhythm of your voice. These are simple acts, but repeated often, they create unshakable composure. Leaders also understand that presence is not about being the loudest, but about being the most intentional. You can command a room without raising your voice when every gesture and word carries meaning. Intentional communication removes the excess and leaves only essence. It is clarity that earns respect, not complexity. Speak directly. Mean what you say. Do not hide behind vague expressions or overly polite evasions. When people know you will speak truthfully, they listen differently. Respect follows honesty, especially when it is delivered with grace. Presence extends beyond words. It is how you make others feel in your company. People rarely remember every word you say, but they never forget how your presence made them feel. A leader who radiates calm gives others permission to slow down. A leader who embodies patience encourages others to think. A leader who communicates with compassion earns loyalty without demanding it. The emotional echo you leave behind is what defines your leadership long after you've stopped speaking. Commanding respect through speech also means accepting responsibility for your message. Every word you release into the world carries impact. Once spoken, it shapes perception, mood, and trust. Choose words that build, not bruise. Replace criticism with guidance. Speak from principle, not pride. Leadership is not about proving superiority. It is about elevating others through the example of your composure. When you speak with purpose, people feel valued, not judged. That is the essence of commanding respect. It is given freely to those who give it first. The Stoic leader understands that presence comes from discipline of mind. Before you can command others, you must command yourself. Control your reactions, steady your breath, master your tone. The one who cannot master emotion cannot master communication. Respect begins internally. If you lose control when challenged, you teach others that your words cannot be trusted under pressure. If you remain composed, even in disagreement, you teach strength without aggression. People follow those who can stay still in the storm. Every time you speak, you reveal the level of control you have over your thoughts. A leader's words should serve a purpose: to clarify, to unite, to guide. To speak like a leader is to recognize that language is a tool of service, not self-promotion. It is the bridge between vision and action. When presence aligns with purpose, your voice becomes a vessel for influence, not noise. To master presence and command respect through speech, focus not on performance, but on authenticity. Presence is not built in a day. It is trained through repetition, reflection, and honesty. Stand tall not because you want to appear powerful, but because you know who you are. Speak clearly not to dominate others, but to help them understand. When you embody this quiet confidence, the world responds. People respect those who are at peace with themselves. That peace is your greatest strength, your most persuasive form of communication, and the foundation of leadership that endures beyond words. Number 2. Speak clarity, confidence, and calm authority. Clarity, confidence, and calm authority form the essence of a leader's voice. They are the unseen architecture behind words that move people, resolve conflict, and create unity in uncertain times. A person who speaks with clarity cuts through confusion like light through fog. A person who speaks with confidence brings assurance where there is doubt. And a person who speaks with calm authority guides others not through noise, but through steadiness. When these three qualities converge, speech transforms from mere communication into leadership in motion. Clarity begins in the mind before it ever reaches the tongue. You cannot speak clearly if your thoughts are tangled. A leader's clarity comes from mental order, from taking the time to understand what truly matters before speaking. The undisciplined mind speaks to fill silence. The disciplined mind speaks to deliver meaning. Clarity is the product of reflection, simplicity, and intention. It is not about using impressive words, but about using the right words. Many people try to sound intelligent, but real intelligence is the ability to make complex ideas sound simple, without losing their depth. When you can explain something in a way that anyone can grasp, you show mastery. Clarity is also kindness. When your words are easy to follow, you respect your listener's time and attention. You remove the burden of interpretation and replace it with understanding. A true leader speaks to be understood, not to be admired. They avoid unnecessary layers, choosing language that feels natural and direct. Every sentence serves a purpose. Every word builds meaning. This simplicity does not weaken authority, it strengthens it. People trust what they can understand. When your communication leaves no room for confusion, you eliminate hesitation and replace it with action. Confidence, on the other hand, is not loudness or arrogance. It is quiet assurance born from preparation and self-trust. Confidence grows when you keep promises to yourself, when you show up consistently, even when it's difficult. It is the result of discipline, not ego. A confident speaker does not seek validation. They seek connection. They do not need to overpower others to be heard. Their calm presence is what earns attention. True confidence radiates from within. It does not need to announce itself. When you speak with confidence, you project certainty even in uncertainty. This does not mean pretending to know everything. It means being grounded enough to say, "I don't know yet, but I will find out." That kind of honesty builds credibility far more than false assurance ever could. People can feel when someone is speaking from truth rather than pretense. Confidence is not about having all the answers. It is about being at peace with not needing to. A confident leader is one who trusts their own process and decisions, who knows that mistakes can be corrected, but fear-driven silence leads nowhere. Calm authority is what binds clarity and confidence together. Authority is not about control. It is about composure. It is the strength that comes from restraint, the dignity that comes from patience. When you speak with calm authority, you bring order to emotion, direction to confusion, and steadiness to chaos. Calmness does not mean passivity. It means mastery of response. The world respects the one who can stay centered when others lose balance. Calm authority tells people they are safe in your guidance, even when circumstances are uncertain. Every leader faces moments where emotion runs high. The ability to remain composed during those moments defines your level of authority. You cannot guide others if you are consumed by the same noise you are trying to quiet. Calm authority begins with internal regulation. It means observing your emotions without letting them dictate your behavior. When frustration rises, take a breath before replying. When doubt appears, speak only after clarity returns. Your calmness communicates stability more effectively than any speech. It shows that you do not merely react to situations. You respond with purpose. To cultivate clarity, confidence, and calm authority, practice intentional speaking. Before you address others, ask yourself 3 questions. What am I really trying to say? Why does it matter? How can I express it simply and effectively? This short pause aligns your thoughts with your purpose. It filters out unnecessary details and centers your message. Many misunderstandings are not caused by disagreement, but by unclear communication. When you take responsibility for clarity, you take responsibility for the direction of the conversation. Another essential discipline is controlling pace. People often rush their words when anxious, but fast speech signals insecurity more than competence. Slow, measured speech conveys confidence. It gives weight to your message and allows others to absorb it. Silence between sentences is not awkward. It is powerful. Those brief pauses allow your words to settle. They show that you are not racing to be heard. You are guiding your listener intentionally. The most persuasive speakers know that what they do not say can be as impactful as what they do. Your tone also shapes how others perceive your authority. A calm, steady tone creates trust, while an erratic or overly forceful tone breeds discomfort. Modulate your voice to match your message. Speak firmly when emphasizing an important point, but soften your tone when showing empathy or care. Authority without warmth becomes intimidation. Warmth without authority becomes weakness. The leader's voice must balance both. It must be strong enough to command attention and gentle enough to invite collaboration. Listening plays a central role in developing these qualities. Clarity is impossible without understanding others first. Confidence grows when you listen without defensiveness. Calm authority emerges when you understand the emotions behind others' words. When you listen deeply, you learn how to communicate effectively with each person. Leadership is not one style fits all. It adapts to the needs of the moment. The ability to listen actively makes your responses more precise and your guidance more meaningful. Body language also reflects clarity and calm. Stand tall, move with intention, and maintain steady eye contact. Your gestures should emphasize meaning, not distract from it. Avoid unnecessary fidgeting or exaggerated movements, as they signal nervousness. A leader's physical presence should mirror their verbal message, measured, purposeful, and confident. The alignment of body and speech creates integrity in communication. When people sense that your words and demeanor match, they naturally respect and trust you. In moments of tension, remember that calm authority is contagious. When a team senses your composure, their anxiety decreases. Your calmness gives others the permission to think clearly. Panic spreads quickly, but so does steadiness. A single composed voice can shift the tone of an entire room. This is why leaders must guard their emotional energy carefully. The steadier you remain, the more others can rely on you. You become the reference point people look to when uncertainty rises. Confidence and humility must coexist for authority to feel genuine. Confidence without humility becomes arrogance, but humility without confidence becomes timidity. The balanced leader understands that both are essential. Humility keeps you teachable. Confidence keeps you decisive. Together they allow you to speak with authenticity. Assertive yet respectful. Strong yet open. People respect those who can acknowledge others' perspectives, while still standing firm in their own beliefs. That balance builds influence that lasts longer than authority given by title. Clarity, confidence, and calm authority are daily disciplines, not occasional performances. They are cultivated through deliberate practice, honest reflection, and continuous growth. Each conversation is an opportunity to refine them. When you speak clearly, you create understanding. When you speak confidently, you inspire belief. When you speak calmly, you create safety. These are not skills reserved for leaders by position. They are habits anyone can build through self-awareness and integrity. Over time, these qualities redefine how others perceive you. People begin to associate your voice with stability and wisdom. They listen more carefully because your words carry reliability. They trust your direction because you do not waver between extremes. Leadership, at its core, is the art of steady communication, guiding others through the consistency of your presence and the clarity of your message. Speaking with clarity, confidence, and calm authority is more than a technique. It is a reflection of inner order. The clearer your mind, the clearer your words. The deeper your self-trust, the stronger your confidence, The calmer your heart, the steadier your authority. These qualities do not need to be performed, they must be lived. The person who cultivates them becomes someone whose very voice leads not by command, but by character. In a world full of noise, the one who speaks with peace becomes the one everyone listens to. Number 3. Craft words that inspire decisive action. Words have the power to ignite motion, to move people from thought to action, from hesitation to decision. The leader who understands this does not merely speak to inform. They speak to transform. Their words do not sit idly in the air. They spark movement, inspire courage, and awaken clarity in others. To craft words that inspire decisive action, one must understand both the language of reason and the rhythm of emotion. Logic informs, but emotion moves. The union of both creates words that not only reach the mind, but stir the heart into motion. In every moment of leadership, you are communicating either possibility or paralysis. Some words build momentum, others drain it. Those who inspire action understand that language is a living force. It carries energy that can build or break, encourage or discourage. The difference lies in intention. Words born from genuine purpose and conviction have weight. They strike a chord because they reflect authenticity. Empty rhetoric may sound impressive for a moment, but it fades quickly because it lacks the heartbeat of truth. When your words arise from genuine belief, they resonate deeply, urging others toward movement without manipulation. Inspiring action requires clarity of vision. You cannot expect others to move if they cannot see where they are going. The leader must paint a vivid picture of what's possible, a vision so clear that it becomes tangible in the listener's imagination. People act when they can visualize the destination. Abstract motivation rarely sustains action, but specific and emotionally charged imagery plants conviction. When you describe not just what must be done but what it will feel like when it is achieved, you engage both the mind and the soul. The listener must see themselves in that vision. That is when your words become fuel for their decision. To craft words that inspire, you must understand rhythm. Speech that moves people has cadence, flow, and structure. Every sentence should carry momentum, building toward a point that feels inevitable. The human mind responds to rhythm instinctively. It senses movement and wants to follow. Leaders who inspire action often use repetition with purpose, not to fill space, but to reinforce conviction. They speak in patterns that the ear remembers and the heart absorbs. But rhythm without meaning is hollow. It is not the sound of your words, but the sincerity behind them that compels action. Emotion is the hidden current beneath all effective communication. To inspire others, you must first connect emotionally. People do not act because they understand, they act because they feel. A leader's responsibility is to awaken that feeling, not through manipulation, but through empathy. Speak to people's hopes, not just their logic. Speak to their fears, not to exploit them, but to show them that courage exists beyond them. When others feel that you understand their struggles and aspirations, they will trust your direction. Trust is the foundation of every inspired action. To move people decisively, your words must contain a call to clarity, not confusion. Avoid long explanations that blur intention. The message should be distilled to its essence, precise and energizing. Action thrives in simplicity. When your words give clear direction, what must be done, why it matters, and how it contributes to something meaningful, hesitation fades. People often fail to act because they are uncertain about where to begin. A leader eliminates that uncertainty with language that lights the first step. Every sentence becomes a stepping stone from indecision to action. Authenticity magnifies influence. When people sense that your words are aligned with your behavior, they follow without resistance. Consistency between speech and action builds credibility. Inspiration is not sustained by eloquence alone. It is maintained by integrity. A leader's message must echo through their choices, tone, and presence. The most powerful words are not those spoken the loudest, but those lived the longest. Your example gives your message permanence. Speak with conviction, but live in accordance with that conviction, and your influence deepens with time. In moments where motivation is low and uncertainty is high, the ability to speak in a way that rekindles energy becomes essential. Words that inspire action in such moments often begin with acknowledgement. Recognize reality honestly before directing attention to possibility. People trust leaders who do not deny difficulty, but who show the path beyond it. When you name the challenge clearly and pair it with a reason to persist, you restore confidence. The balance between realism and optimism keeps motivation grounded in truth. This kind of language does not inflate expectations. It strengthens resolve. To inspire action effectively, understand that different situations demand different tones. Sometimes action requires gentle encouragement. At other times, it requires firm direction. The leader must know when to speak softly and when to speak decisively. Inspiration is not always emotional intensity. Often it is quiet certainty. The right tone communicates readiness. It tells others that movement is both necessary and possible. When urgency is expressed calmly and confidently, people respond with focus instead of fear. Your tone becomes the emotional compass that guides collective action. Specificity is another secret of inspiring language. Vague statements breed hesitation, while precise statements create motion. Replace general appeals like "do your best" with clear intentions such as "complete this with excellence by tomorrow," because it advances our shared goal. When listeners understand exactly what to do and why it matters, they feel empowered. Clarity transforms anxiety into determination. Each word should create direction, not drift. Leadership language removes ambiguity because action cannot thrive in uncertainty. Stories are among the most powerful tools a leader can use to inspire decisive movement. A story translates abstract ideas into human experience. It provides emotional proof that action is worthwhile. When you share stories of persistence, courage, or transformation, you awaken possibility in others. A well-told story bypasses resistance. It allows people to feel the truth rather than merely hear it. Use stories not as decoration but as demonstration of what can be achieved. They become mirrors that show others what is possible for them. A leader who seeks to inspire must also master the art of timing. Words delivered too early fall flat. Words delivered too late lose relevance. The right message at the right moment can shift the entire course of a decision. Timing is learned through observation and patience, sensing when people are ready to hear, when they need encouragement, and when they need direction. The pause before speaking often reveals the right moment to lead others forward. Thoughtful timing multiplies the impact of every sentence. Another aspect of action-driven communication is conviction in delivery. Even the most powerful message loses strength when delivered with hesitation. Speak as if your words already contain the outcome you envision. This does not mean forcefulness. It means unwavering belief in your message. Conviction has a resonance that cuts through doubt. When you believe deeply in what you say, others borrow that belief until it becomes their own. Confidence is contagious when expressed with sincerity. To craft words that inspire decisive action, you must also understand that persuasion is not domination. It is service. The purpose of inspiring others is not to control them, but to awaken what already exists within them. Great leaders do not impose direction. They reveal potential. Their words remind people of their own strength, purpose, and capability. When your speech helps others see themselves as capable of more, you give them ownership over their actions. Empowerment lasts longer than obedience, because it turns followers into contributors. Leadership through language requires continuous refinement. Reflect after every important conversation. Did my words bring clarity or confusion? Did they inspire movement or hesitation? Self-awareness in communication deepens mastery. Over time, you will learn how to choose words that fit each person and situation. What moves one individual may not move another. Adaptability allows your influence to expand without losing authenticity. The leader's voice becomes versatile, not because it imitates others, but because it understands others. Ultimately, words that inspire action come from inner conviction shaped by discipline. You cannot motivate others to act decisively if your own speech is scattered or reactive. Your communication must mirror your internal order, focused, deliberate, and grounded in purpose. The strength of your language reflects the strength of your inner foundation. When your words are guided by clarity of purpose, confidence in truth, and calm conviction, they become sparks that ignite momentum wherever they land. Every great movement in history began with words that stirred hearts and challenged inertia. Words that called people to rise, to strive, to believe. The same principle applies to everyday leadership. Whether you are guiding a team, mentoring a student, or leading your family, your words are instruments of direction. Speak to awaken, not to impress. Speak to energize, not to command. Speak so that those who hear you feel capable of taking their next step with courage. When you craft language that connects vision to action, you do more than communicate, you lead. The legacy of a true leader is not found in what they said, but in what their words helped others to do. Number 4. Lead conversations. Don't just participate passively. Leadership is revealed most clearly in conversation. Every dialogue, whether with one person or 100, is an opportunity to shape direction, influence thought, and create meaning. To lead conversations is to guide energy, to move ideas from scattered fragments into focused clarity. Passive participation is easy, nodding, agreeing, reacting, but it changes nothing. The person who leads conversation shapes the atmosphere, the pace, and the purpose. They bring intention where there was randomness, alignment where there was no. Real leadership begins when you stop waiting to be part of a conversation and start taking responsibility for the quality of it. Leading a conversation is not about dominance. It is about presence with purpose. A leader enters a discussion, not to prove they are right, but to ensure progress is made. The difference between a talker and a leader is simple. A talker wants to be heard. A leader wants understanding to happen. When you take ownership of a conversation, you are guiding people toward insight, toward decisions, toward clarity. You are ensuring that the time spent speaking and listening has value. A passive participant drifts wherever others lead them. A conversational leader steers gently but decisively toward meaning. The first step in leading conversations is defining intent. Every meaningful discussion needs direction. Before speaking, know what outcome you are guiding toward. Is it understanding, resolution, creativity, motivation, or accountability? Without intent, conversations become endless loops. Words circling without landing. The leader introduces purpose early, often subtly. They anchor the exchange with clarity. Here's what we're trying to solve, or let's explore what success looks like. That focus transforms dialogue from wandering talk into purposeful collaboration. Leadership in communication starts with intention, not instruction. A leader also listens differently. They do not wait for their turn to speak. They listen for leverage points, those moments where insight can shift direction or deepen understanding. They listen for emotion behind words, for hesitation, for conviction. Listening actively means guiding through silence as much as speech. Sometimes leadership is found in the pause, in allowing others to unfold their thoughts fully before shaping the next step. The best conversational leaders create space for others to express, but they also know when to tighten focus so discussion becomes progress rather than repetition. To lead a conversation, you must balance empathy with direction. Empathy builds connection. Direction creates momentum. If you lean too much toward empathy, you risk endless validation without movement. If you lean too much toward direction, you risk sounding controlling. The art lies in weaving both, acknowledging feelings, then channeling them toward constructive purpose. When someone feels heard, they open up to guidance. Once that trust exists, your influence flows naturally. Leadership in dialogue grows from understanding first, then guiding second. Language choice defines your leadership tone. Passive participants use reactionary language. I see. That's true. Maybe. These phrases fill space but create no movement. Conversational leaders use language that organizes and advances thought. What if we look at it this way? Let's define what success means here. That's an important point. How can we act on it? These statements redirect focus and infuse structure into uncertainty. Leadership language doesn't overpower others. It elevates the quality of the exchange. Each word is chosen to move things forward, never sideways. Confidence in conversation comes from preparation. A leader never enters dialogue empty-handed. They think ahead, anticipate challenges, gather context, understand perspectives. Preparation allows spontaneity because it gives you range. The unprepared speaker reacts emotionally. The prepared one responds intentionally. When you know the terrain of the discussion, you can lead it calmly, adjusting course without losing direction. People sense when someone knows what they're talking about, and they follow willingly. Leadership communication thrives on quiet certainty, not forced authority. A crucial skill for leading conversations is the ability to ask catalytic questions. Questions that spark thought, not just answers. Passive participants ask questions that confirm what they already believe. Leaders ask questions that expand thinking. They use inquiry as a steering wheel, not as small talk. What would happen if we approached this differently? What's stopping us from deciding right now? How does this align with what we said we wanted? Such questions sharpen awareness, expose assumptions, and push dialogue toward clarity. A good leader doesn't always provide answers. They provoke discovery. Emotional control is another foundation of conversational leadership. When emotions rise, tone shifts quickly, and discussions risk derailing. A leader must become the stabilizing presence that restores order. They maintain calm even when challenged, choosing response over reaction. Their steady tone signals composure and keeps others grounded. This emotional discipline earns trust. It shows that the conversation is safe, even when disagreement exists. A calm voice has a gravitational pull. It recenters scattered minds and refocuses energy on progress instead of conflict. In every interaction, attention is your greatest currency. When you lead a conversation, your full presence becomes a form of respect. The moment your attention drifts, the connection weakens. People feel it instantly. A leader sustains focus not through forced intensity, but through genuine curiosity. They remain interested in every perspective while subtly shaping the flow toward purpose. Presence is not about dominating airtime. It's about holding space, so the discussion maintains direction and depth. True leadership presence quiets distractions and invites collaboration without force. Leading conversations also means mastering transitions. Discussions often lose momentum between topics because no one bridges the gaps. A skilled communicator guides transitions seamlessly, summarizing key points, highlighting patterns, and steering naturally into the next step. It sounds like we've agreed on this. Now let's address what comes next. This type of verbal navigation maintains rhythm and ensures continuity. Without it, meetings drift and ideas scatter. Leading through transitions demonstrates control without constraint. It keeps the conversation fluid and productive. Timing and pacing matter as much as content. A leader senses when to accelerate toward decision and when to slow down for reflection. They read the room, noticing when energy dips or rises. Passive participants speak based on impulse. Leaders speak based on awareness. They adjust their tone, timing, and phrasing to match the emotional climate. Sometimes leadership means pausing mid-discussion to recalibrate. Let's take a moment and revisit the core issue. That ability to regulate pace prevents exhaustion and maintains focus. Another trait of conversational leadership is accountability. Words must lead somewhere tangible. At the end of every discussion, a leader crystallizes outcomes, what was decided, who is responsible, and what comes next. Leaving conversations open-ended creates confusion and erodes authority. Clarity at closure transforms talk into action. People respect those who summarize and set direction because it saves time and reinforces purpose. Leadership is not about endless dialogue. It's about ensuring that dialogue translates into results. To lead conversations effectively, you must detach from the need to win. The purpose of leadership communication is not to dominate but to direct collective intelligence toward a shared goal. When your ego leaves the room, people engage more openly. They stop defending and start contributing. Humility makes leadership magnetic. It signals that your goal is progress, not personal validation. The most influential conversational leaders guide without making others feel led. They make people believe the direction was their own discovery. Adaptability strengthens conversational influence. Every dialogue has its own energy. Some require logic, others empathy, others inspiration. The leader's role is to sense what is needed and provide it. They switch modes effortlessly, strategic when needed, encouraging when morale drops, decisive when clarity demands it. This flexibility does not dilute authority, it enhances it. It shows emotional intelligence and awareness. Conversations are living dynamics, and leadership is the ability to adjust your communication rhythm to sustain effectiveness. Over time, leading conversations becomes less about technique and more about presence of mind. When you consistently bring focus, empathy, and purpose into communication, people begin to look to you naturally. They sense you bring structure without suffocation, guidance without control. They turn to you not because you talk the most, but because your words create meaning. That quiet influence is what defines conversational authority. It's not claimed, it's earned through consistency and clarity. Leadership through dialogue extends beyond formal meetings. It happens in every interaction, in casual talks, in mentoring moments, even in disagreement. A true leader treats each conversation as a chance to elevate understanding. They know that every exchange leaves an imprint, shaping how others think, decide, and act. Over time, these moments form a reputation, the person whose words bring direction and calm, whose presence turns discussion into decision. Leading conversations, then, is not about speaking more, it's about speaking with purpose. It is the art of steering without steering too much, of guiding without overshadowing. It requires patience, awareness, and the humility to let others shine while ensuring progress never stalls. The leader's voice is not the loudest in the room. It is the one that steadies the flow, asks the right questions, and moves everyone closer to clarity. When you master this, every conversation becomes an act of leadership, and every word becomes an instrument of direction. Over time, you stop waiting for someone else to take charge of the dialogue. You become the one who shapes it, and through that, you begin to shape everything around you. Number 5. Build trust using tone and timing. Trust is the invisible bridge that carries every word from one heart to another. Without it, even the most carefully chosen message falls flat. With it, communication becomes effortless, honest, and deeply human. A leader who understands tone and timing holds the key to that bridge. These two elements, how something is said and when it is said, determine whether words build connection or create distance. Tone gives language its emotional texture, and timing gives it rhythm. Together, they transform speech from mere information into relationship. Tone reveals intent. It is not just the sound of your voice, but the energy behind it. Every tone carries an emotional message that listeners interpret before they process your words. You may speak truth, but if your tone feels cold, defensive, or dismissive, truth turns into tension. You may offer correction, but if your tone holds respect and care, it becomes guidance instead of criticism. People remember not only what was said, but how it made them feel. A steady and compassionate tone tells them you are safe to listen to, safe to trust. To build trust, your tone must reflect sincerity. Authentic tone cannot be faked for long. People sense dissonance immediately. When your voice carries calm conviction instead of performance, it invites openness. Trust grows when others hear consistency between your words, your tone, and your body language. A mismatch between these signals breeds doubt. If your words say, "I care," but your tone feels impatient, the listener believes the tone, not the word. Harmony between sound and intention builds credibility faster than promises. Timing, just like tone, speaks volumes without explanation. Every conversation has its right moment, its rhythm of readiness. Say something too soon, and it feels intrusive. Say it too late, and it loses meaning. The leader who understands timing senses the emotional climate before speaking. They read the silence, the posture, the pace of breath around them. They wait until the mind is open before planting their message. This patience is not hesitation, it is wisdom. The right message at the wrong time can undo trust faster than silence ever could. There is an art to pausing before you speak. That small moment of stillness allows emotion to settle and clarity to rise. It signals that you are not reacting impulsively, but responding thoughtfully. People trust those who measure their words, not those who rush to fill every silence. A pause communicates presence, patience, and self-control. It gives your listener space to breathe and process. Often trust is built not by what you say but by the restraint you show in saying it. Tone also mirrors empathy. A leader who adjusts their tone to the emotional needs of others demonstrates awareness and care. When someone is anxious, a soft tone eases tension. When they feel lost, a confident tone restores direction. When they are celebrating, a bright tone amplifies joy. Matching your tone to the moment shows that you are tuned in, that you see and reset the emotional landscape of others. This adaptability makes your communication feel personal rather than mechanical. It assures people that they are not just being spoken to, they are being understood. The discipline of tone requires mastery over emotion. It is easy to speak kindly when calm, but leadership is tested when frustration or stress appears. The voice you use during conflict determines whether bridges are strengthened or burned. When anger rises, tone tightens. When fear enters, tone shakes. The leader must learn to anchor their voice even when emotion surges. A grounded tone steadies others. An uncontrolled one infects the room with chaos. To build lasting trust, you must become the thermostat, not the thermometer. The one who regulates emotional temperature, not the one who reflects it. Timing, too, demands emotional intelligence. Knowing when to speak involves sensing when others are ready to listen. There are moments when silence is more powerful than advice, when presence communicates more trust than persuasion. If someone is hurt, they don't need solutions immediately. They need acknowledgement. A leader who rushes to fix instead of first connecting often loses the chance to influence. Waiting until the person feels seen creates space for genuine communication. Timing is not delay, it is respect for another's readiness. Trust deepens when tone and timing align with honesty. Speaking truth with harsh timing can wound. Speaking false comfort with perfect tone can mislead. The balance lies in delivering honesty with empathy and patience. People can handle truth when it's given with care and at the right moment. They may resist it initially, but over time, they remember how it was delivered. Leadership communication is not just about being right, it's about being received. A message heard with trust has more power than one shouted with accuracy. Consistency of tone builds predictability, and predictability builds trust. When people know what to expect from your communication, calm when stressed, encouragement when uncertain, fairness when challenged, they feel safe in your presence. Inconsistency breeds anxiety, stability breeds confidence. Your tone becomes part of your character's signature. It signals reliability. Those who maintain emotional steadiness through highs and lows are the ones others confide in, follow, and believe. In leadership, tone can unite or divide teams. A sharp tone may achieve compliance, but a balanced one earns commitment. When you speak with respect, people contribute willingly. When you speak with condescension, they retreat into silence. The difference lies not in authority, but in approach. Words delivered with dignity invite participation. They make others feel valued, not managed. The tone of a leader becomes the tone of the culture they create. If you speak with calm strength, your environment mirrors that energy. The rhythm of timing extends beyond moments. It applies to the pace of communication over time. Trust grows through consistent interaction, not sudden speeches. Regular check-ins, timely appreciation, and early interventions prevent misunderstandings from taking root. Delayed feedback, delayed gratitude, or delayed acknowledgement slowly erode connection. Timely words nurture relationships because they show attentiveness. People trust those who notice without being prompted, who speak when it matters, not when it's convenient. Listening deeply refines both tone and timing. The more you listen, the better you sense when and how to speak. Listening reveals emotional patterns, tells you when someone needs silence, and helps you gauge whether your tone is helping or harming. It keeps your communication responsive rather than mechanical. A leader who listens with patience naturally speaks with precision. Each word then lands exactly where it is needed, not as noise, but as nourishment. Trust also depends on humility in speech. When you admit mistakes with a tone of accountability and sincerity, you reinforce credibility. Pretending perfection only creates distance. A leader who can apologize genuinely and at the right time restores faith faster than one who avoids discomfort. Timing an apology or acknowledgement properly shows maturity. It communicates, "I care about restoring balance more than preserving pride." Such humility in communication transforms authority into respect. The subtleties of tone and timing influence even silent communication. A well-timed nod, a gentle pause, a slower pace. All these microsignals convey respect and reassurance. Trust does not always need grand speeches. Sometimes it is built through calm rhythm and quiet consistency. The most trusted communicators are those whose tone never rushes others, whose timing never feels forced. Their composure becomes a silent promise. "You can rely on me to stay balanced, even when things are uncertain." Tone without timing is like melody without rhythm. It lacks coherence. A kind word delivered too late feels empty, just as a harsh word spoken too soon feels unjust. Harmony between the two creates resonance. People remember not only what was said, but when it came. The timing that showed empathy, the tone that carried integrity. Trust accumulates in these moments until it becomes unspoken understanding. Building trust through tone and timing is not about perfection. It is about awareness and intention. Each interaction is a chance to strengthen connection through the quality of your expression. Over time, your consistent tone and thoughtful timing create a legacy of dependability. People begin to associate your words with steadiness and care. They relax in your presence because they know your voice will not betray them. When tone carries warmth and timing respects readiness, trust becomes effortless. It no longer needs to be earned each time. It becomes the foundation on which all communication stands. Every conversation becomes smoother, every disagreement less personal, every silence more meaningful. The leader who masters this balance transforms their relationships from fragile to enduring. They speak fewer words, yet each one carries the weight of reliability. In the end, trust is not built by promises or persuasion. It is built by the steady rhythm of respectful tone and the patience of perfect timing. Number 6. Turn communication into influence and impact. Influence begins the moment communication moves beyond words and enters the realm of transformation. To influence is not to manipulate or control. It is to awaken something within another person that changes how they think, feel, or act. Communication becomes influence when it carries intention, authenticity, and purpose. Every word, every silence, every gesture can either add meaning or dilute it. The goal of a leader is not merely to be heard, but to leave a lasting mark on those who listen. Impact is not the volume of your speech, it is the depth of your message. True influence begins with clarity of intent. Before speaking, know why your words matter. A message without purpose is noise, but a message grounded in intention becomes a force that moves people. When you communicate, align your intention with the outcome you wish to create. If your goal is to inspire action, speak with energy and conviction. If your aim is to create understanding, use empathy and patience. The impact of communication is born from its internal alignment. People can sense when your words have direction. They follow those who speak with certainty of purpose. Influence is rooted in understanding others. You cannot move people without first knowing what moves them. Great communicators listen before they speak. They observe tone, expression, and unspoken tension. Influence grows when communication meets people where they are, not where you expect them to be. It is about stepping into their world, feeling their reality, and then guiding them toward a broader vision. When people feel seen, they open up. That openness becomes the gateway for transformation. The power of influence lies in framing ideas in a way that connects logic to emotion. Facts appeal to the mind, but emotion fuels action. When you speak, combine clarity with feeling. Present truth in a form that touches both intellect and heart. A leader does not merely inform, they ignite. A statistic may explain, but a story compels. A directive may instruct, but a vision inspires. When your communication carries emotional truth, people don't just understand, they remember and respond. Every conversation offers an opportunity to shape perception. Influence happens when your words help others see a problem, a goal, or themselves differently. You guide perspective through the lens you offer. When you speak about challenges as opportunities, people begin to approach them with courage. When you describe mistakes as lessons, they start viewing failure as progress. Influence, at its essence, is the art of reframing reality in a way that empowers others to act with purpose. Impact grows through consistency. One powerful speech can inspire for a moment, but consistent communication builds enduring belief. Influence deepens when your words today align with your words yesterday. People trust communicators whose values remain stable regardless of circumstance. They watch your patterns more than they hear your promises. When your message stays true over time, it shapes identity and culture. Influence then becomes self-sustaining. It lives in others even when you are silent. The tone of influence is never forceful. It is persuasive through integrity. People resist pressure but respond to authenticity. When communication feels like partnership rather than instruction, it draws people closer. You influence not by asserting dominance but by demonstrating conviction. The leader who speaks with humility yet firmness invites cooperation. Their words carry quiet authority because they are grounded in truth, not ego. Influence that endures always comes from respect, never fear. To turn communication into influence, learn to translate complexity into simplicity. The ability to express big ideas in clear, relatable terms is a rare skill. Simplicity creates accessibility, and accessibility breeds connection. When your words cut through confusion, they build confidence in your listeners. People follow communicators who make clarity feel effortless. They feel guided, not overwhelmed. The simpler the message, the more universal its reach. True impact doesn't come from sounding intelligent. It comes from making others feel understood. Influence also depends on rhythm. Every message has a natural flow. The right moment to emphasize, the right pause to let a point settle. The most impactful communicators understand this cadence. They don't rush or ramble, they let their words breathe. Silence becomes part of their language. A well-timed pause can speak louder than a sentence. It creates space for reflection, turning information into insight. Influence happens in those spaces between words, where thought takes root. Empathy magnifies impact. When your communication acknowledges the feelings of others, it carries emotional weight. Influence is not achieved by overpowering someone's perspective, but by respecting it enough to gently expand it. You create movement by connecting to what people value most. Speak to their fears, their hopes, their pride, and their pain. Influence begins where understanding meets compassion. The person who feels emotionally seen becomes mentally receptive. The authenticity of your presence is another element of impact. Words gain influence when they come from a person who embodies them. You cannot inspire discipline if you lack it. You cannot call for courage if you never face fear. Communication loses strength when there's a gap between message and behavior. Alignment between word and action creates credibility. People don't follow advice, they follow examples. Your way of being becomes the loudest form of communication you possess. Influence also thrives on storytelling. A story captures what logic alone cannot. It bypasses defense and reaches imagination. It allows listeners to see themselves in the narrative, to feel emotion through experience rather than instruction. Stories humanize leadership. They remind people that growth, failure, and resilience are shared journeys. When your communication tells a story that embodies truth, it becomes memorable. Influence turns from persuasion into inspiration. Another element of impactful communication is repetition with purpose. Not every repetition is redundancy. When key principles are reinforced through varied expression, they sink deeper into consciousness. Great communicators repeat not to fill silence, but to strengthen belief. They craft rhythm in their language that makes ideas stick. Influence is not about saying many things. It's about saying a few essential things often enough to shape behavior. Nonverbal presence contributes as much to influence as words do. Your posture, facial expression, and eye contact communicate confidence and sincerity. People listen to how you stand before they hear what you say. A calm and open stance conveys assurance without aggression. The rhythm of your breathing affects the pace of your speech and the perception of your confidence. Influence is not only vocal, it is embodied. Every gesture can either strengthen or weaken your message. Communication becomes influential when it inspires ownership. Rather than dictating what others must do, invite them to see why it matters. People are more likely to act when they feel part of the vision. Use language that turns instructions into inclusion. Instead of saying, "You need to," shift, "Together we can." Such phrasing transforms authority into alliance. Influence grows when people feel empowered rather than directed. The measure of impact is not applause, it is action. You know your communication has influence when it changes behavior, strengthens morale, or shapes culture. Influence is not about gaining attention. It's about transferring conviction. It's about helping others find within themselves the reason to move forward. The most powerful communicators don't make others depend on them. They awaken independence. Their influence lingers not because of charisma, but because of clarity. To communicate with impact, you must learn restraint. The desire to convince can easily turn into over-explaining. Influence grows stronger when you leave space for others to discover meaning. Provide direction, but allow reflection. Give truth, but let understanding mature naturally. The mind accepts what it feels it has chosen, not what it's been forced to believe. The greatest communicators guide people to reach conclusions on their own. That autonomy turns influence into transformation. Purpose, empathy, and clarity together form the foundation of impactful communication. Every word you speak carries weight. Whether you realize it or not, the tone you use, the stories you share, the honesty you project, all of it molds perception and guides behavior. Influence is not achieved in a single conversation. It is earned through countless interactions where words align with wisdom and integrity. When communication reaches this level, it ceases to be an exchange of words. It becomes a transfer of energy. You leave people stronger, clearer, and more grounded than before they met you. Your presence becomes synonymous with motivation and meaning. Influence at its highest form is not about control. It is about contribution. It's the ability to speak in ways that leave others changed. Not because you demanded it, but because your words revealed what was already waiting within them. That is the essence of communication with true impact. A dialogue that awakens action, a message that outlives the moment, and a voice that becomes a steady source of direction in a noisy world. Number 7. Speak less, listen deeply, lead stronger. Strength in leadership is not measured by how much one speaks, but by how well one listens. The most powerful voices in any room are often the ones that know when silence serves better than speech. To speak less and listen deeply is not an act of passivity. It is an act of discipline. It takes self-control to resist the need to fill every moment with words. The greatest leaders understand that true influence arises not from talking more, but from understanding more. Every moment of listening adds depth to your perspective and precision to your next word. When you speak after truly listening, your voice carries the quiet authority of wisdom rather than the noise of ego. Listening deeply begins with presence. Many people hear sounds, but do not listen to meaning. They wait for their turn to respond instead of seeking to understand. Real listening requires complete attention, not just to words, but to tone, hesitation, and emotion. It means noticing what is said and what is left unsaid. When you listen in this way, you create space for truth to emerge. People feel when they are genuinely heard. That feeling builds connection, loyalty, and respect faster than any speech can. A leader who listens fully communicates value without a single word. Speaking less allows reflection to take root. Constant talking often hides insecurity, the need to prove knowledge or maintain control. Silence, on the other hand, demonstrates confidence. It signals comfort with thought, patience with process, and trust in others. When you speak sparingly, your words gain gravity. People listen because they know you do not waste expression. Your restraint gives your language weight. Silence, used intentionally, becomes a form of leadership in itself. It tells others you do not need to dominate conversation to direct its course. Listening is not just about gathering information, it is about gathering understanding. When you listen deeply, you catch the nuances that shape perception and decision-making. You learn what motivates people, what discourages them, and what they truly need. Every conversation becomes a chance to read human nature more clearly. This awareness allows your communication to become targeted and empathetic. You stop speaking from assumption and start responding from truth. Such accuracy strengthens your leadership because it grounds every word in reality. To lead stronger through listening, you must cultivate stillness within. The mind that races cannot hear. Impatience closes the door to insight. Deep listening requires quiet inside the listener, an inner calm that allows others' thoughts to enter without distortion. When you listen with a quiet mind, people sense it. They lower their defenses. They reveal more of themselves. This transparency builds trust, and trust strengthens influence. A calm listener turns every conversation into collaboration. There is wisdom in measured silence. A space between words often reveals more than the words themselves. When you pause instead of reacting, you give others the dignity of being fully expressed. Most conflicts escalate not because of disagreement, but because people feel unheard. By listening before answering, you transform tension into understanding. You can disagree respectfully and still preserve connection. The leader who listens before leading cultivates both clarity and unity. Speaking less also sharpens intuition. When you are not constantly expressing, you are observing. You notice details that others miss. The shift in someone's eyes, the change in tone, the silence that hides discomfort. These observations allow you to lead with insight instead of assumption. You begin to sense what is needed before it is spoken. That quiet awareness makes leadership more responsive and humane. Words have power, but perception has reach. The leader who listens sees beyond the surface and responds to the essence. In a world addicted to noise, silence becomes a superpower. People often confuse loudness with leadership, but the truth is that noise rarely inspires. It overwhelms. Calmness, however, invites reflection. When you speak from stillness, your words cut through the clutter. They linger because they are rare. Those who master the balance between silence and speech hold attention effortlessly. Their communication feels deliberate, precise, and trustworthy. Speaking less gives your language clarity, and clarity creates impact. Listening deeply also strengthens relationships. When people feel truly heard, they stop performing and start being honest. They bring you their real thoughts, not their filtered ones. That honesty helps you make better decisions, solve real problems, and build authentic bonds. Listening is a form of respect. It tells others their voice matters. Leadership that listens creates teams that speak freely, innovate boldly, and stay loyal. Words may motivate, but listening sustains connection. Speaking less gives you time to think before reacting. Leadership often tests emotional control. When faced with challenge, the impulse to respond quickly can lead to words that wound or decisions that divide. Silence gives you a buffer between reaction and response. It allows your reason to catch up with your emotion. The leader who pauses before speaking prevents unnecessary conflict and speaks from purpose, not impulse. This control builds credibility. People trust those who do not let emotion dictate language. Listening also strengthens self-awareness. When you are quiet, you become more conscious of your own thoughts, patterns, and biases. You begin to notice how often your ego tries to interrupt or impose. This awareness allows growth. You start speaking from clarity instead of insecurity. Leaders who listen to others also learn to listen to themselves. They hear their own fears, ambitions, and truths more clearly. Silence becomes a mirror that reveals character. There is also power in asking rather than telling. Speaking less allows room for questions, real questions that draw out wisdom from others. When you ask with sincerity, you invite contribution. People begin to think alongside you, rather than beneath you. This shared thinking fosters engagement and ownership. The more others speak, the more they feel invested. Leadership through listening transforms teams from followers into participants. Influence grows stronger when people feel part of the vision, not subjects of it. Listening deeply helps you adapt. Every environment, every person, every moment carries a different energy. The leader who listens senses these shifts and adjusts accordingly. They can change tone, strategy, or timing without resistance because they have paid attention. Speaking less keeps you receptive. You stay flexible rather than rigid. Adaptability, guided by awareness, is one of the most vital traits of strong leadership. The rigid voice commands obedience. The listening mind earns alignment. Listening also teaches humility. It reminds you that no matter your experience, others hold pieces of wisdom you do not. When you listen, you learn. Every voice carries a perspective shaped by experience you cannot replicate. Recognizing this keeps you grounded. Leadership is not about having all the answers. It is about seeking the right ones. Humility in listening earns respect because it shows that your goal is not to dominate but to understand. To speak less is not to withhold truth, but to choose words with intention. Each word becomes an arrow of purpose, rather than a scatter of noise. The fewer words you use, the more they matter. Precision in communication requires patience. It requires the discipline to think through what needs to be said and what serves better left unsaid. Every unnecessary word weakens the message. Every chosen word strengthens it. Speech becomes like art, deliberate strokes that shape understanding rather than random splashes that confuse. Leadership rooted in listening influences culture. When people see their leader practicing patience and attentiveness, they mirror it. Meetings become more thoughtful, conversations more meaningful, disagreements more productive. The tone of the entire environment shifts from competition to cooperation. Listening leadership ripples outward. It changes how people relate to one another. A leader who listens teaches everyone else to do the same. Deep listening also sharpens strategic vision. Information flows freely to leaders who listen. People bring them truths others might hide from those who talk too much or react too fast. Listening leaders gather a full picture before acting. Their decisions are informed, balanced, and often more successful because they reflect diverse perspectives. Speaking less creates space for others to share insight. Listening turns those insights into wisdom. To lead stronger, cultivate the courage to stay silent when your ego wants to speak. Silence is not weakness. It is composure. Listening is not submission. It is mastery. The quiet leader moves people not through volume but through depth. Their presence feels grounding. Their words feel deliberate. And their leadership feels trustworthy. The world follows those who listen because listening reveals care, and care creates loyalty. Speaking less, listening deeply, and leading stronger is a lifelong practice. It demands patience, awareness, and humility. But with every moment of silence, your understanding deepens. With every act of listening, your influence expands. When you finally speak, your words emerge with clarity, power, and purpose. They carry the strength of everything you've heard, everything you've understood, and everything you've chosen to hold back until the moment truly called for it. In that balance between silence and speech lies the essence of true leadership. The kind that doesn't seek attention, but earns it through presence, wisdom, and restraint. Number 8. Project vision clearly through powerful language. A leader's vision is the compass that gives meaning to motion. Without it, effort becomes scattered and progress becomes mechanical. But a vision, no matter how profound, is powerless if it cannot be seen, felt, and understood through language. To project vision clearly through powerful language is to translate the unseen into something tangible, to turn an internal conviction into a shared belief. The clarity of your words determines whether others will walk with you or simply watch you. A leader who speaks their vision with precision and passion turns abstract ideas into living momentum. Language is the bridge between imagination and reality. A vague vision leaves people uncertain. A well-communicated one pulls them forward with conviction. When you describe the future, paint it in detail, vivid enough to touch emotion, yet simple enough to remember, people must be able to picture what you see. Use language that moves beyond explanation and enters experience. Describe not just what will happen, but how it will feel, what it will change, and why it matters. The clearer the picture, the stronger the pull toward it. Powerful communication begins with internal clarity. You cannot project what you do not understand yourself. Before speaking, define your vision in your own mind until it feels unmistakably real. Ask yourself what principles it stands on, what values it serves, and what impact it aims to create. When your vision is deeply rooted in purpose, your words naturally carry authority. People don't follow vague enthusiasm, they follow grounded conviction. Clarity is not just about choice of words, it is about certainty of belief. To project vision effectively, language must connect logic to emotion. Facts make people think, but emotions make them move. You must appeal to both. When you speak, balance reason with resonance. Explain the purpose behind the vision so minds understand, but express it with passion so hearts align. A leader who only inspires emotion without logic risks losing direction. One who only presents logic without emotion fails to inspire movement. Influence happens when both parts of human nature, mind and heart, feel spoken to. The rhythm of your language carries as much weight as its meaning. Vision must sound alive. It must carry momentum through cadence, pause, and emphasis. A monotone description of a dream makes it sound distant. A voice charged with conviction brings it near. Your delivery is the emotional container of your vision. Each word must sound like it belongs to you, born from belief rather than borrowed inspiration. When you speak with genuine energy, listeners feel your certainty more than they analyze your content. To project vision clearly, simplify without diminishing depth. Complexity clouds understanding. When people struggle to grasp your message, they disengage from it. Strip away unnecessary decoration until only essence remains. Great communicators express profound truths in language that feels natural and direct. The strength of your message lies not in how sophisticated it sounds, but in how easily it can be remembered and repeated. The clearer your language, the wider your influence spreads. Metaphor is one of the most powerful tools of visionary language. Abstract ideas become tangible through imagery. A metaphor turns the invisible into something familiar. It gives shape to concepts that might otherwise feel distant. When Martin Luther King Jr. said, "I have a dream," he didn't describe statistics. He painted emotion. He used imagery of hills, valleys, and light to make justice feel visible. A vision anchored in metaphor becomes not just a statement, but a story, one that people can carry in their minds and hearts. Repetition is another instrument of power. A vision must be heard often to become belief, but repetition must be meaningful, not mechanical. When you restate your vision, vary its framing, deepen its relevance, and connect it to real actions. Each repetition should reinforce its truth, not just echo it. People remember through rhythm. They internalize what they hear consistently and clearly. Your role as a leader is to make the future so familiar in their imagination that it starts to feel inevitable. Visionary language thrives on specificity. Instead of vague ideals, give concrete direction. "We will improve" sounds hopeful but hollow. "We will reduce waiting time by half within a year" gives clarity and urgency. Precision turns intention into mission. It helps people measure progress and recognize success. A vision described in actionable terms invites participation. It tells everyone exactly how they fit into the bigger picture. The energy of vision lives in verbs, not nouns. Nouns describe what is. Verbs move toward what can be. Words like create, build, elevate, transform, and unite carry forward motion. They turn a statement into a call to action. The leader who fills their speech with active language transforms listeners into doers. A powerful vision is not static. It breathes movement into those who hear it. To project vision is also to listen to how others interpret it. Communication is not one-directional. It is a living dialogue. As you share your vision, pay attention to how people respond, what confuses them, and what excites them. Adjust your message accordingly. Clarity grows through feedback. A great communicator refines vision, not by changing its essence, but by finding better ways to express it to different audiences. Listening ensures that your message stays alive across perspective. The strength of visionary language lies in consistency. Every time you speak about your purpose, it must echo the same truth. Changing tone or direction confuses people and weakens trust. Consistency reinforces belief because it proves commitment. Even when circumstances shift, the core of your message should remain steady. That reliability makes your vision something people can depend on, a constant compass in unpredictable times. To make your language powerful, anchor it in values. When words rise from moral grounding, they resonate more deeply. People follow those whose vision stands for something bigger than personal gain. Use language that reflects integrity, service, and growth. A vision that uplifts others becomes self-sustaining because it speaks to universal human desires: meaning, belonging, and progress. Words that align with virtue carry enduring strength. They outlast trends and challenges alike. The way you speak your vision should make others feel capable, not small. Avoid the language of hierarchy or superiority. Speak in terms of we, not I. Vision that excludes cannot expand. When your words include others in the story, you awaken ownership. People begin to see the vision as theirs, not yours. Shared ownership transforms followers into partners. The most influential communicators create unity by speaking in a way that empowers participation. Timing adds dimension to vision projection. Knowing when to express your ideas is as crucial as how. Introduce your vision when people are ready to receive it. When there is curiosity, not chaos, the right moment gives your words traction. Rushing to inspire a weary audience wastes energy. Waiting for the right emotional climate makes your language more impactful. Patience and timing turns communication into resonance. Your body language, tone, and facial expression must mirror the conviction of your words. People judge authenticity not by what you say, but by what your presence conveys. Stand with steadiness, maintain eye contact, and let your gestures match your message. When your physical expression aligns with your language, you radiate confidence. Disconnection between body and voice weakens impact. The clarity of vision must be visible not only in speech, but in stance. Storytelling strengthens the projection of vision by creating emotional bridges. When you share experiences that illustrate your message, you transform abstract belief into relatable truth. A story about overcoming struggle, achieving unity, or witnessing transformation brings the vision to life. It gives listeners evidence that what you describe is possible. Storytelling weaves emotion with logic. It humanizes ambition. The leader who tells stories doesn't just describe the destination. They make people feel the journey. Above all, powerful language requires authenticity. A borrowed vision never inspires. Speak from lived experience, from your own understanding of what the future should hold. Words rooted in sincerity carry energy that cannot be faked. When people sense authenticity, they listen differently. They don't just hear, they believe. Authenticity is the invisible force that gives your vision credibility. It makes your message unforgettable because it rings with truth. A vision projected clearly through language becomes more than an idea. It becomes an invitation. It gathers people, guides action, and gives meaning to struggle. When your communication paints the future vividly, people see themselves in it. They begin to act as if it already exists. That is the true measure of powerful language. It shifts perception until possibility feels real. The leader who masters this art doesn't simply describe what will be. They help others believe that it can be built together. Clarity in language is clarity in leadership. Every sentence you shape, every word you choose, should pull others toward purpose. When your speech becomes a beacon of direction and inspiration, your vision transcends words. It becomes movement. That is the mark of a leader who speaks with power. Their vision doesn't remain in their mind. It spreads into the hearts and actions of those who listen, guiding them toward a future they can see, feel, and help create. Number 9. Shape perceptions with intentional word choices. Every word a leader speaks carries weight, even the ones that seem small or ordinary. Words are more than sounds arranged in sequence. They are tools that shape perception, build meaning, and define relationships. Through deliberate word choice, a leader crafts how people see the world, how they view themselves, and how they interpret the direction of a mission. The ability to shape perceptions with intentional language is one of the quietest yet most powerful skills a leader can possess. It transforms confusion into clarity, fear into focus, and hesitation into confidence. The way people perceive you is not determined solely by your actions. It is filtered through the words you use to describe them. Language is the lens through which reality is interpreted. If a leader's words are careless, perception becomes clouded. If those words are precise, vision becomes sharp. Consider how a single word can shift emotion. A challenge can sound daunting or exciting. A setback can feel like failure or opportunity. By choosing words with awareness, a leader subtly guides how others think and feel without force or manipulation. It is not about controlling minds, but about steering energy in the right direction. Every great communicator knows that people don't respond to reality itself. They respond to their perception of reality. And perception is built from the words they hear and the tone that carries them. For example, calling a problem a test changes how people approach it. Calling a delay a pause for refinement changes frustration into patience. The mind follows language like a compass follows direction. To speak with intention is to set that compass towards strength rather than defeat. The difference between encouragement and discouragement often lies in the framing of a single sentence. Intentional word choice begins with awareness. Many speak on autopilot, unaware of the emotional impact of their phrasing. But leaders pause before they speak. They think about the consequence their words will create in the listener's mind. They understand that a phrase can either uplift or diminish, unite or divide, motivate or discourage. This mindfulness transforms ordinary conversation into purposeful communication. The discipline to choose words consciously is a mark of emotional intelligence and leadership maturity. Tone and phrasing shape perception even more than content. A leader who says, "We need to fix this mistake," creates a different emotional atmosphere than one who says, "We have a chance to improve this process." The second phrasing communicates growth, not blame. It encourages participation rather than defensiveness. The emotional undertone of language determines whether people feel empowered or judged. When you craft words with care, you create an environment where others feel safe to contribute, learn, and move forward. Perception is not only about how others see you, it's also about how they see themselves when they're around you. A leader who uses words that affirm capability cultivates confidence. When you tell someone, "I trust your judgment," you strengthen their self-belief. When you say you always deliver excellence, you plant the identity of reliability. People tend to live up to the language they hear repeatedly. Words can become mirrors that reflect back strength, possibility, and worth. Intentional communication helps others rise into their potential by showing them how capable they already are. To shape perception effectively, your language must align with truth. Empty positivity erodes trust. People sense when words are spoken to manipulate rather than to inspire. The purpose of intentional word choice is not to disguise reality, but to define it constructively. Even difficult truths can be expressed in ways that preserve dignity and hope. Saying, "We failed," is factual but final. Saying, "We learned what doesn't work," acknowledges the same reality, yet invites progress. Honesty framed with care becomes a bridge rather than a barrier. The perception of leadership itself is built through subtle linguistic habits. A leader who frequently says "we" instead of "I" projects humility and unity. Using inclusive language communicates that success is shared, not owned. Conversely, constant self-reference signals ego and distance. The pronouns you choose quietly reveal your mindset. They show whether you lead for yourself or for others. Similarly, the difference between saying "you must" and "we can" changes command into collaboration. The choice of words defines whether you are seen as authoritarian or empowering. Perception can also be influenced by rhythm and pacing. The way you deliver words affects how they're received. Short, deliberate sentences convey conviction. Longer, descriptive ones create warmth and reflection. Pausing before key phrases allows meaning to settle deeper. Great communicators understand that silence is part of language. It gives shape to words and allows emotion to breathe. The right rhythm turns speech into experience, making listeners not just hear the message but feel it. Emotionally intelligent leaders also adapt their language to the context and audience. The same message requires different expression depending on who listens. What inspires a seasoned professional may confuse a new recruit. Intentional word choice involves empathy, seeing through another's perspective to find the language that resonates. When people feel that your words meet them where they are, they perceive you as thoughtful and connected. That perception builds loyalty and trust, the true foundation of leadership influence. The stories you tell also shape how people perceive reality. Narratives create shared understanding far more powerfully than facts alone. A story can turn an abstract goal into a relatable journey. It helps others see purpose not as an instruction but as an experience. When you tell stories that highlight courage, teamwork, or resilience, You mold a collective mindset that reflects those same traits. The words within those stories become the shared vocabulary of culture. A team that constantly hears stories of persistence starts to embody it. Leaders who speak with intentionality also understand the power of subtlety. Not every message needs grand language. Sometimes the simplest words, spoken at the right moment, carry the deepest impact. A calm "I believe in you" during uncertainty can do more than an entire speech. Power lies not in volume but in precision. Each word is a seed. If planted with attention, it grows into trust and motivation. The discipline to choose fewer but stronger words makes a leader's speech memorable and sincere. Another aspect of shaping perception is how you respond under pressure. When challenges arise, your words become magnified. People listen not just for direction, but for emotional cues. A leader who panics spreads fear. A leader who remains composed and speaks of possibilities instills calm. Even when outcomes are uncertain, language that conveys steadiness reassures. Saying, "We will handle this step by step," signals control. Saying, "We're in trouble," amplifies anxiety. The ability to use stabilizing language during chaos is what distinguishes those who lead from those who react. Consistency in language builds credibility. When your words remain aligned with your actions and values, people perceive integrity. But when your words shift with convenience, perception collapses. Intentional language must be reinforced by consistent behavior. Every promise you make becomes a contract of trust. If your words exaggerate what you cannot deliver, your influence fades. Authentic leaders measure their language carefully, ensuring that every statement can stand as truth. Over time, consistent truth-telling becomes your most powerful message. Precision in word choice is not rigidity. It is artistry. It allows a leader to speak with elegance while remaining natural. The best communicators don't use complicated vocabulary. They use accurate vocabulary. Each word serves a purpose. Every phrase drives meaning. When speech becomes intentional, it feels lighter yet sharper, softer yet stronger. People remember not only what was said, but how it made them feel. And it is that feeling of clarity, confidence, and connection that shapes long-term perception. To master this skill, observe your own language patterns. Notice how often you use words that limit rather than liberate. Replace "I can't" with "I haven't yet." Change "they always fail" to "they're still learning." The shift may seem small, but it transforms the energy of the conversation. Words build pathways in the mind. Positive, forward-moving language opens doors to creativity and possibility. Over time, this way of speaking changes not only how others perceive you, but also how you perceive yourself. Shaping perception through intentional word choice is both an art and a responsibility. It demands discipline, empathy, and self-awareness. It requires the leader to think before speaking, to understand the emotional architecture of language, and to use words as instruments of progress rather than weapons of ego. Each phrase should aim to build bridges of understanding, not walls of confusion. When you speak with deliberate clarity, people see you not just as a communicator but as a compass, someone who guides thought, emotion, and action toward a better direction. In the end, perception is not shaped by grand declarations, but by the steady rhythm of thoughtful language. Every conversation becomes an opportunity to reinforce respect, purpose, and optimism. The leader who speaks with intention crafts a reality in which people feel capable, valued, and united. Words become a force of creation rather than reaction. When your speech consistently reflects wisdom and purpose, others begin to trust not only your leadership, but your vision of what is possible. That trust, born from intentional language, becomes the invisible foundation upon which all lasting influence is built. Number 10. Transform nervous talk into commanding leadership. There is a quiet moment before every great act of leadership, a breath, a heartbeat, a pause, where uncertainty and potential meet. In that moment, even the strongest leaders feel something stirring inside them. It's not weakness, it's energy waiting to be directed. Nervousness is the body's way of preparing for something that matters. What separates great communicators from hesitant speakers is not the absence of nerves, but the mastery of them. To transform nervous talk into commanding leadership, one must learn to harness that restless energy, refine it into focus, and let it serve rather than sabotage expression. Every person who speaks with authority began somewhere uncertain. The difference lies in understanding that nervousness is not a flaw to suppress, but a signal to translate. The trembling voice, the rapid heartbeat, the dry mouth. These are not enemies, but reminders that the moment holds weight. Commanding leaders don't fight these sensations. They reinterpret them. Instead of saying, "I am nervous," they tell themselves, "I am ready." This mental shift turns anxiety into anticipation and transforms tension into presence. Commanding speech begins long before words are spoken. It begins with the relationship you have with your own body and breath. Nervous talk is scattered. It races ahead of thought. Leadership talk is grounded. It moves with control. When you feel pressure rise, focus first on slowing your breathing. Deep, measured inhalations signal calm to your nervous system and clarity to your mind. As your breath steadies, so does your voice. Calm breathing lowers the pitch of anxiety and replaces it with depth and resonance. That sound, even before meaning, communicates authority. Physical grounding is equally powerful. Stand with your feet firmly planted and your posture upright. Nervousness pulls the body inward. Confidence expands it. When your posture is open, your body tells your mind that you are safe and capable. Small physical adjustments create large psychological shifts. Commanding leaders use posture not to appear dominant, but to embody stability. Presence is not about intimidation. It's about giving those who listen a sense of security in your steadiness. A leader's command over language comes from command over self. Nervous talk often stems from self-consciousness, the fear of judgment, the desire to impress, the preoccupation with being perfect. But the truth is, people are not looking for perfection. They are looking for sincerity. The more you focus on serving your message rather than protecting your image, the more your nerves subside. The audience is not your opponent. They are your allies. They want you to succeed because your success helps them understand, believe, and move forward. When your focus shifts outward toward purpose instead of inward toward fear, your speech gains power and flow. Preparation transforms uncertainty into confidence. Nervous talk thrives in the unknown. Commanding leadership thrives in readiness. Know your material deeply, so deeply that you can speak about it, not read from it. When you internalize your message, you free yourself from dependence on notes or memorization. You begin to speak from conviction, not from script. Confidence is not the absence of mistakes, but the ability to continue gracefully after one. People trust a leader who speaks with natural command, even if a word falters, more than one who hides behind rehearsed perfection. Every great speaker has learned the art of pacing. Nervous energy pushes people to rush through sentences as if to escape the moment. Leadership language does the opposite. It breathes. It allows silence between ideas. It gives weight to pauses. When you slow down, your words gain authority because they have space to be heard. Silence can be more commanding than speech when used with purpose. It shows confidence that your message is strong enough to rest on stillness. The calm control of pacing tells others you are not reacting to the moment. You are directing it. Tone is another key to transformation. Nervous talk tends to rise in pitch and speed, signaling uncertainty. Commanding tone rests lower, steady, deliberate. You can practice this by speaking from the chest instead of the throat, letting your breath support the sound. This creates a grounded resonance that naturally draws attention. People listen to leaders whose tone sounds certain, not because they speak louder, but because they speak with calm conviction. A voice that carries composure reassures others even before the message is fully understood. Commanding communication is also shaped by intention. Nervous speakers worry about how they are perceived. Powerful communicators focus on what they want to create. Every time you speak, know what emotional state you want to leave your listeners in. Do you want them to feel hopeful, determined, united, or calm? When your intention is clear, your energy aligns with it, and your language adjusts naturally. Purpose gives direction to presence. Without it, words drift. With it, they strike deep. It is also essential to recognize that nervousness often arises from unrealistic expectations. Many believe they must impress everyone or speak without flaw, but leadership is not performance. It is connection. People remember how you made them feel more than how perfectly you spoke. When you stop chasing flawless expression and instead aim for authentic impact, your anxiety loosens its grip. You stop performing and start leading. The shift from self-focus to service focus turns nervousness into engagement. A crucial part of transforming nervous talk is mastering emotional regulation. Leadership communication demands emotional composure, especially under stress. You may not control external situations, but you can control your response to them. Emotional steadiness begins with awareness. When you feel tension rising, acknowledge it calmly rather than resisting it. The simple act of naming your feeling, "I am tense," reduces its power. From awareness comes choice. You can decide to let that energy fuel expression instead of freezing it. Emotion, when directed rather than suppressed, becomes a source of passion and authenticity. Clarity of thought is another antidote to nervous speech. When the mind races faster than the mouth can follow, words stumble. Organize your ideas mentally before you speak. Know your key points, the transitions between them, and the core message you want remembered. Clarity brings calm. It tells your brain that you are prepared, and preparation dissolves panic. Speak to express, not to impress. The simpler your structure, the stronger your delivery. Complexity often hides insecurity, while simplicity reflects confidence. Transforming nervous talk also means embracing vulnerability with strength. Admitting that you feel nervous doesn't weaken you, it humanizes you. People respect leaders who are real, not robotic. Transparency builds trust. When you can acknowledge your nerves lightly and continue with grace, you demonstrate courage. True confidence is not the absence of fear. It is the ability to act with steadiness despite it. Over time, every successful expression of courage rewires the mind to associate speaking not with threat but with growth. Practice is the silent architect of command. The more you expose yourself to speaking situations, the less novelty they hold, and the calmer you become. Record yourself, speak to small groups, rehearse difficult topics aloud. Each repetition refines rhythm, tone, and timing. Practice is not about memorizing, it's about conditioning your mind to remain composed under attention. Confidence is a skill, not a gift. It grows with deliberate effort. Another key lies in self-image. If you see yourself as nervous, you will speak nervously. If you see yourself as composed, you will begin to embody that composure. The words you tell yourself before you speak become your emotional state. Replace internal criticism with constructive direction. Instead of "I might fail," tell yourself, "I will speak with strength." Self-talk is not fantasy. It is focus. The inner dialogue sets the tone for the outer one. Commanding speech begins with commanding thought. When you reach the point where your nervous energy becomes creative energy, communication transforms from a burden into a gift. You begin to feel joy in expression, confidence in pause, and purpose in each sentence. People sense it. They respond differently. They lean in not because you demand attention, but because your calm conviction naturally commands it. You no longer chase control, you embody it. Over time, nervous talk fades not because the nerves disappear, but because they find a place to belong. That energy becomes presence, the quiet magnetism that makes others trust your words. Commanding leadership is not about suppressing emotion. It's about mastering it. Each breath steadies the mind, each pause strengthens conviction, and each word becomes deliberate. You move from survival mode to influence. Ultimately, transforming nervous talk into commanding leadership is an inner evolution. It is the journey from self-doubt to self-direction, from tension to trust, from reacting to leading. It teaches that composure is not gifted. It is earned through awareness, discipline, and purpose. When your voice carries calm strength, you don't just speak, you lead. Those who listen feel guided, not by volume but by certainty. You become the still point in the storm, the steady rhythm others can follow. And in that steadiness, your voice ceases to be merely sound. It becomes a force that moves people, shapes belief, and leads with grace.